So if you've read any of the press about meditation, you see that there's been scientific studies that show that when you meditate regularly, your mind is calm and focused. You're more, oh, there you are. You're more cheerful. You're more emotionally resilient. You're not constipated. So many benefits of meditation. Then if you're like me, you sit down to meditate and your mind is grumpy. Your mind is running all the way from here to, Richmond and back in the space of an instant. You're checking off things on your to-do list. And you're constipated. And you think, either the technique is wrong, or I'm not doing it right, or I'm just no good at this. Is that not so? Or is this just Swami True Confessions that sometimes you have? You have days. Mama said there'd be days like that. There's a story I love from the Buddhist tradition. A woman goes away on a trip, like you all are on this lovely trip. She comes home, all ready to settle into her beautiful home, and what does she discover? While she's away, her home has been taken over by monsters and demons. So she goes to hang her coat up, she opens the closet, out a monster comes and just scares the daylights out of her. She goes, unpacks her clothes and goes to take them downstairs to do the laundry. She opens the basement door, another demon comes out and just threatens to tear her limb from limb. She goes and hides in her bedroom under the covers, and a demon crawls out from under the bed and starts sniffing the bed, waiting to devour her, right? There's just no place in her home that she's peaceful. Every single place she could hide has been taken over by some kind of a demon. So she runs down the road to the local Buddhist priest and says, please, please, monsters have taken over my home. Can you please come home with me and do an exorcism? And he says, yes, I could do that, but actually it would be better if you learned to do it for yourself. She said, me? He said, yeah, you can do it. Do you have a stool? She says, a stool? He says, yeah, a kitchen stool. She says, yeah. He says, I want you to take your stool, drag it into the middle of the living room, sit down on it, and say, come on in. I'm not going anywhere. Throw open the closet doors, the cellar door, look under the bed. Come on in. I'm not going anywhere. So she says, do you think it'll work? He says, give it a try. Just give it a try. So she goes home, opens the door. She can just feel them. They're all waiting to come jumping out as soon as she starts to do something, right? So she pulls the stool out into the middle of the living room, throws open all the doors and says, come on in. I'm not going anywhere. The bats fly out of the chimney. The monsters come out of the closet. They're all swirling around her. It's like a cyclone. It's like a tornado has come into the house. And they're snarfing and snarling and, threatening in every way. And she just sits. She just sits. Come on in. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. And they realize she's not running away. She's not afraid. She's not intimidated. She's not leaving home. And they kind of look at each other like, this is no fun. And they get bored and they say, okay, bye. We're out of here. And away they go. And her beautiful, peaceful home is once again her beautiful, peaceful home. And that's a story about the process of meditation. This is the home. This is our beautiful home. We're out in the world all day, having fun. We come home. We just want to sit and enjoy our time in here. And what happens? Out they come. All those tempestuous emotions, the anger, the fear, the whatever it is. And they all say, the world is coming to an end. Eco disaster, pipelines, Washington, D.C. Oh my gosh, it's just a mess. And your kids and your spousal unit and this, right? out it comes, threatening to completely knock you off your center. And it seems wherever you go to hide, there they are, coming out again. Now, not all the time in meditation, right? Many, many, many times you will sit and you will be cheerful. You will feel stronger. You will be more focused. You will be more calm, and you won't be constipated mentally or emotionally. So you do have those times, but you should expect it to happen, that there will also be this incredibly deep house cleaning that's going to go on from time to time. Because all of those creatures hiding in the basement, they're not sleeping down there. They are making you react in ways you don't want to react in your daily life. They're making you react fearfully, angrily, to output, to things coming at you from the outside. I love one line from the video. I can't quote it exactly right now, but it's something like, nobody from outside wants to make you happy. No one is even interested in making you unhappy. You make yourself unhappy. You make yourself unhappy. It is not to say that people don't behave reprehensibly toward you. It's not about their behavior. It's about your own happiness. And one of the things I love about this video is this concept that, you know, you can invite them all in and just take some time to analyze them. That's one way to get through whatever comes up in your meditation. That's not bad. It doesn't mean your meditation's not successful, and it certainly doesn't mean that you are not good at it. I remember once Gurudev said, in meditation, the ashramites have heard me say this a million times. It's one of my favorite quotes. As soon as you notice that your mind has wandered in meditation, you just succeeded at meditation. As soon as you notice that your mind has wandered, you just succeeded, because you just woke up to the witness. Who noticed the mind had wandered? Not the wandering mind. It's still doing its thing. You just woke up to be the witness. Oh my gosh, my mind is off doing its to-do list. Success! Yay! Good job. You stayed seated on the cushion long enough to wake up. To wake up, right? That is a success. Now, when I first started meditation, I would notice my mind had wandered, and I'd say, I'm no good at this. Oh, my mind wandered. I just succeeded, and I would trash myself for not being good at it. Took me a while. Took me a while to figure out, no, do not judge. Do not judge the process. My friend Ram Vignola used to say, the only bad meditation is the one where you don't get your butt on the pillow. Yeah. If you said, I'm going to sit for 5 minutes, and you sat for 5 minutes, I'm not going anywhere. You succeeded. You succeeded. No matter what your mind did, the fact that it didn't succeed in getting you to run away from the contents of your own mind was an enormous success, Never underestimate the power of sitting for meditation, thinking it was blah, blah, and just checking it off the list. You have gained tremendous power over the mind's ability to motivate you to get up and do something else. Yeah. I was mentioning this morning to my group, there have been studies of people who are immensely successful in many different fields. Industrialists, entrepreneurs, yoga teachers, artists, people who are wildly successful. What do they have in common? And one of the huge main things they have in common is they have a great capacity to sit with uncertainty. In other words, not to get the result they're looking for. They have a tremendous capacity for not success. Or if you want to say it another way, they have a tremendous capacity to be comfortable with the mental discomfort that comes from not knowing the answer, right? How do you learn that? You can learn that through meditation, by just sitting with whatever comes up. You sit with whatever comes up. I loved what Gurudev said also about, No one can make you unhappy unless you choose to. Right now, as a nation, we are going through, a very, very difficult time. And if you turn on the news at night and you just watch the news for, the first 10 or 15 minutes, like we did this week, you see the blame game. You see this tremendous blame game going on. Oh, that party is responsible for this mess. And then the speaker from the other party gets up and says, that party is totally responsible for the mess we're in this week. And we're sitting home going, I don't care what party you're in. If you sit back and look, we can agree on one thing. It's a mess. It's not working. But here's the question. Am I letting that make me unhappy today? Am I giving what we do when we blame someone else for my unhappiness? Can be your spousal unit, your kid, your boss, or the politicians. I don't care who you're blaming. If you think in any way that your unhappiness is their responsibility, that they're responsible for making you miserable, you just gave those idiots the power over your happiness. Not a good idea. Is that not so? Whenever you blame, you give whoever you're blaming the power over your happiness. You're basically saying, unless you change, I can't be happy. That's what you do when you blame. So when you sit for meditation, your mind may go through that for a long time. You may trick yourself into blaming others for your unhappiness for a week, for a decade. Doesn't matter. Eventually, you're going to wake up. No, I am not putting my power over my happiness out there to anything or anybody. That's the last thing Gerda was talking about. Don't give it away to anything or anybody, because everything in the world ultimately will disappoint you. It's here already as your own true nature. You want to feel that? That is the only real happiness, and that is the absolute safety of your existence. That is the absolutely invulnerable part of your existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, that part of you, that ultimate happiness within, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, wind cannot dry it. In other words, even if one were to set you on fire, that part of you will not be burned. So if you feel vulnerable in the world in this day and age, my golly, you really want to meditate. We are. And the only place to be absolutely invulnerable, and I'm not saying it's overnight. All those monsters will come up. Father Thomas Keating calls this process in meditation, where you just sit with whatever comes up, He calls it divine therapy. That it's the cheapest, the deepest, the most efficient psychotherapy. And I always say, I'm a big believer, if you have a lot of really deep problems in doing yoga and psychotherapy, I think psychotherapy is a gift from God for people who are, who can get the benefit of that kind of interactive attention to what's not working. But I say, if you are doing psychotherapy and you're not doing yoga, you're flushing about half your money directly down the toilet. If you are doing yoga and you're doing psychotherapy, you doubled your investment. Because this is the field in which you need to have all of the insights that you get from psychotherapy go in and take root. Yeah? In the old days, you'd see a Woody Allen movie, and Woody Allen, one of the ongoing jokes in all his movies, he's been in therapy for 30 years and he hasn't changed a bit. He's still a complete neurotic mess, just complete hilarious neurotic mess. He doesn't do yoga with his psychotherapy. That's the point. You can have tremendous insight into what a mess you are and not be able to change at all. And that's the truth. You have to get in there and prepare the field so that the insight can go in and change you deeply. So Gurudev, I have to end up. I'm going to give you Gurudev talked about being in meditation and going into the analyst, like, am I blaming someone else for my unhappiness? Will my happiness come from someplace, right? You spend time with your own thinking. Okay, what am I thinking? Yeah, I'm really not happy with that other person. I'm in blame mode. It's not going to work. I'm giving my power away. Let's take it back, right? So you sit with what comes up. Another method is you go back to your technique. You just plain drop it and go back to your technique. Whatever your technique of meditation is designed, like Gurudev talked about, putting in grease to replace the old grease in your car. Your technique is designed to go directly to that place in your internal hard drive where that misery that's come up in your meditation lives, and rewrite that piece of code. That's what it's supposed to do. And it's supposed to soothe your emotions while it's doing it. So right now it's going to soothe the emotions, like repeating your mantra or watching your breath, whatever your beloved technique is, will help to soothe the emotion, while deep underneath the emotion, it's going to go in and rewrite that code so that when you encounter that situation in the future, it's not going to push the button and you have that knee-jerk reaction. Well, that's brilliant. But sometimes the mind is making you so crazy that you can't analyze and you cannot just pick up your mantra or whatever and go back to it. And Gurudev gave one other piece of advice, not here but elsewhere, that I'm just going to briefly touch on. He said, if your mind you've noticed your mind has wandered, but it won't drop it. It's just really riled up about something. He said, go back to preparation for your meditation technique. In integral yoga practice and many of the classic schools of yoga, you don't simply sit down and pick up your technique and start doing it. You have a whole process of preparation. And you prepare yourself through all the layers of your being, going from gross to subtle. So Hatha Yoga, where we stretch the body, relax the body, and witness the body, slow, gentle movement where you witness what you're feeling, is one preparation technique. When we do Hatha Yoga, basically we're preparing so that the body is not an obstacle to meditation. But guess what? If your mind is really making you crazy in meditation, take a moment and feel what you're feeling physically in the physical body. It's not going to feel good. Not only your mind doesn't feel good and your emotions don't feel good, your body is going to feel contracted. It's going to feel stiff. It's going to be holding on to the breath. When he says go back to meditation, you can take that very literally. You can sit there in meditation. Now I'm going to give you two options. One is if you're all by yourself, and the other is if you're in a group, a big group where you don't want to get other people distracted by what you're doing. But if you're all by yourself, feel your body and say, okay, body, what do I need right now to feel good physically? Oh man, I think I'm just going to stretch, right? And you just sit there and you meditate on what does your body need to do to feel good. You give it what it needs. You stretch it how it needs to stretch. You feel emotionally much, much better. And that's a technique for grounding your meditation in your physical form, right? So instead of going above, like to analysis, jnana yoga, right? I am the true self, and that's a level above your emotional upset. You're plunging below your emotional upset to the physical form and grounding your meditation through the physical form to relieve yourself of that distraction. Does that make sense? If you're in a big group, you can do micro movements. You can just very gently do cat-cow. I love cat-cow. Why don't you do it with me while I'm talking about cat-cow? You know cat-cow, right? When you're on the floor, it's like chin up, or you could say head back, tailbone back, chest forward. And then the other way is head down, tailbone forward, and chest back. And you alternate between the two. And you can do it big, and it's a combination of a backward bend and a forward bend in a slow, gentle, mentally, you're paying attention to how you feel while you're doing the movement. But you can also do that in a and here's one way to do it, like you do it with a hand movement where you can open yourself up. I always say airplane yoga. This is how you do it in economy. This is how you do it in business. This is how you do it at satsang. We're all in super economy. But, in other words, you ground yourself in the sensation of slow, gentle, soothing movement. And you combine that with an awareness of the breath. So when you go like this, you breathe in. And when you stretch your back backwards like this and crunch your abdomen back, you breathe out. And so you're getting physical movement, mental focus, and your breath all in the same place at the same time. So you're grabbing hold to work on your emotional body in meditation. You're taking a hold of it, you might say, from the really concrete end of things. There's one other really beautiful way to do it. Let's say you get calmer through that, and you're still seeing things swirling around inside you. If you're familiar with the chakras, Gurudev would say, focus on one of the chakras. He didn't give a lot of details. He didn't talk a lot about the chakras. But the chakras have a location. They're in the subtle body. They're not a physical energy center, but they're located in relation to one of the centers in the body. So, for example, your heart chakra. If you're having an interpersonal disturbance, emotional disturbance, your heart chakra is probably going to be contracted. Maybe also your throat, your ability for self-expression. So those two chakras are going to somehow be affected whether you feel it or not. Sometimes you really feel your chest is tight, your throat is tight, your throat hurts, you're constricting your breath all up here. But sometimes it's just like, oh, you don't exactly know where it is, you just know you feel bad, right? Doesn't matter. You can still ground your meditation by just focusing on one of the chakras. So just for a moment, let's do that, just for fun, as sort of our closing meditation for this part. Sit and focus on your heart center and notice what your heart center is feeling. Doesn't matter if it's easy, if you don't feel much, just if you don't feel anything, just imagine something visual in the space in your chest. It can be a light. The color that corresponds with the heart chakra is the color green. But you might choose another color. Feel what the middle of your chest is feeling. If you like, you can picture a light, a white light or a colored light. And then notice your breath moving down into that region, perhaps swirling around your heart, loosening up any tightness, any constriction, any pain. And on the out breath, releasing the tightness in the heart. And after you soothe your own heart, you may want to feel it growing larger, even expanding out beyond your own body so that all of us in the room, all of the people we love, all the people watching via live stream, We're all connected at the heart center. It's like a beautiful space mandala of beings connected with a beautiful green light emanating from their heart. And see it moving out from your heart, connecting to every other heart in all directions. Picture yourself supported in that beautiful, infinite, connected mandala.